Hello there, duelists. Welcome to a World Championship deck from 2015. Today we have Satellarknights on the playmat. These galactic warriors blasted into one of those memorable formats the game has ever seen and managed to claw the world title from decks that still claim meta relevance to this very day. So have these Night Sky Knights managed to do the same? Let's do some stargazing and find out. Okay, so let's meet the knights. So we're running 3 Satellarknight Deneb. So in a mechanic totally fresh and original to Yu-Gi-Oh, these guys get an effect when they're summoned. Obviously this has been done a million times before and does leave the Satellarknights open to kind of having a lot of normal summons in the deck, which does slow them down a little bit. And it's a bit contrary to the way that you build decks currently, or at least the way that I do. But I think you're kind of forced into that. Deneb's got a super solid effect. Summoned, add Stellarknight monster from your deck to your hand. From there, we're running 3 Altair. So Altair is the only one that's got like a kind of clause on the fact of it's using its effect. So when it's summoned, you can special summon a Tellarknight monster in defense position, but you can only attack with Tellarknight monsters for the rest of the turn, which is just like, why? Like the card wouldn't have been any worse. Oh, sorry, any better at the time, I don't think. I mean, go for it, whatever. But yeah, in my opinion, it's an unwarranted restriction. 3 Vega, when you summon it, you can summon a Tellarknight monster from your hand. And finally, 3 Unukalhai. Yeah, nailed that. So this guy is a Foolish Burial when he's summoned. And then finally, I'm running 3 hand traps, and I'm keeping it light and going with 3 effect Veiler. Obviously, you can pick whatever you want. You know, Ash Blossoms is, I suppose, probably more varied or infinite permanence than Effect Layla, but, you know, do what you have. Alright, onto the sport cards. As you may have noticed, the monster lineup's a bit light, so this section's going to be a bit bigger than normal. I'm normally a Monster Mash kind of guy. So we're running 3 Stellarknight Skybridge. So target 1 Stellarknight monster you control, shuffle it into the deck, and special summon a different one from your deck. While you control that monster, you can only special summon Tellarknight monsters. So it's fairly decent, and I think it's a good way of kind of getting your ball rolling, which is why I've kind of maxing it out. From there, I'm running 3 Pot of Desires, and again, you could run, you know, the new pot, you know, to banish from your extra deck and reveal 6, add 1. It's just super expensive, and I'm not sure that it really, like, if you're going to buy that, I'm not sure you'd really want to be putting it in a Tellarknight deck. Maybe you would, maybe you do. So yeah, obviously the draw 2 just adds a bit of consistency. And finally, running a bunch of one-offs. So we're running the 1 Upstart Goblin, the 1 Reinforcement of the Army for kind of a consistency boost, and then the 1 Double or Nothing, which does conflict with the Pot of Desires. I'm not going to lie with that, but just being able to kind of claw games just by, you know, kind of Double or Nothing into your opponent with a 10,000 attack Utopia is well worth it in terms of, you know, just stealing games that maybe you shouldn't have. And then, onto the traps. So we've got 3 Stellarnova Alpha, nailed it on the 3rd try. So this is our kind of counter trap for Stellarknights. When anything is activated, basically, you can send a Tellarknight monster you control to the graveyard, negate it, destroy, and then draw a card. So it's not bad. I think the sending to grave is a bit steep, but it's still well worth the play. And then we're running a bunch of continuous traps just because it works quite well with some of the extra deck cards. So we're running 3 Crackdown, which is basically just steal your opponent's monster. It's got to be face up, and that monster can't attack or activate its effects. And then from there, we're running 3 Fiendish Chain. It's kind of just effect negation. You know, it's classic. It's a classic card. I can't remember the last time I had Fiendish Chain in a deck. But yeah, 1 face up effect monster, can't attack, and its effects negated. And then finally running, well, not finally for the continuous, shall we say, I'm running 3 Call the Haunted. Again, this is a classic trap. Special summon a monster from your graveyard in attack position. And then we're running a few Solemns, so we're running 2 Solemn Judgment and 2 Solemn Strikes. All right, and onto the extra deck, the main kind of end game, should we say? So we're running 2 Constellar Diamond. So you can kind of XYZ on top of an existing XYZ monster in main phase 2. You can't, while it's got XYZ materials, you can't send cards from your deck to your graveyard, which is obviously, you know, a bit oppressive, especially in the modern game. Any card that returns from the graveyard to the hand is banished instead, which is a bit less useful, I would say. And then if a dark monster activates its effect, you can detach and negate and destroy. So it's all around a very solid card and can be quite oppressive against some, you know, some decks. I think it feels very much in the, you know, kind of vein of, I don't know, like Spirit Dragon, where it's definitely designed to counter the meta at the time. But again, it's still a solid card. So then we've got 2 Triverr. So the turn that you XYZ summon it, you can't special summon monsters apart from Tellarknight monsters. And then if it's special summoned, XYZ summon, should I say, you return everything else on the field to the hand, which is why we're running all of the continuous trap cards, because it means that we get to reuse them. And then you can detach 1 to send a random card from your opponent's hand to the graveyard, which is also super solid. And then finally, if it's sent to the graveyard while it has XYZ materials, you can special summon a Tellarknight monster in your graveyard, from your graveyard. So, super great. It does require 3 level 4 Tellarknight monsters, which is a little bit savage, but, you know, there's ways of, you know, getting around that. Speaking of the ways of getting around it, we're running 2 Darktellarknight Batlamyus. And finally, for the final Stellarknight card, we're running Stellarknight Delteros. So let's go with the Delteros first, actually. So again, that's 3 level 4 monsters. While it's XYZ material, your opponent can't respond to your normal special summons, which is great. And then you can detach 1 to pop a card on the field, and then if it's sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a Stellarknight monster from your graveyard. So what you can see that once you've kind of got the ball rolling, you know, you can kind of keep up advantage quite nicely. Darktellarknight, all face-up monsters on the field become dark, which works well with Diamond. And then you can detach 1, discard 1 to XYZ on top of Batlamyus, a light Tellarknight XYZ monster, and the materials become attached to Darktellarknight Batlamyus. And then if you've got 7 or more in the graveyard, which I'm not even sure, that might be possible. It might be just about possible. You can do it on your opponent's turn. And my guess is that you can, you know, do Triverr on your opponent's turn or something like that for an extra disruption, but that literally never comes up. So yeah, and finally, we're kind of running a bit of a toolbox. So we're running kind of like the Utopia package, Utopia the Lightning, Utopia Double, and number 39 Utopia. So, you know, double searches out the double or nothing, which you'll always draw anyway, so it's kind of irrelevant. And then allows you to make special summon a Utopia on top of it with 5,000 attack. Utopia the Lightning could beat over stuff a bit. It's a bit easier to get to, especially if you've, you know, kind of banished that double or nothing by desires, and it means your opponent can't activate effects, and, you know, when it destroys the monster. And then finally, obviously, the Utopia, the old classic, can stop attacks, which is obviously super relevant, super relevant. Not being sarcastic at all. From there, we're running 1 Castel, the Skyblaster Musketeer, just for kind of removal. Daigusto Emerald for kind of draw and recycling. Abyss Dweller to kind of stop that, you know, the graveyard base decks, and this with Diamond, you know, can be super solid. And then we're running 1 Tornado Dragon for Spell and Trap Disruption, and 1 number 60 Dugares at the time. That's just for some utility club. And I know the Bujin XYZ, you know, that allows you to draw 2, but I felt like Dugares is a bit more flexible, so I kind of bumped him in instead. So Satellarknight is somewhat unusual for a rank 4 deck, in they're not really spamming monsters, you know, but are very much trying to control the pace of the game and kind of grind out that win. I think this still has a place in today's game, but the pace of Satellar's is definitely letting it down a bit. That reliance on, you know, kind of normal summon is huge. So it's a 3 for relevance. The fun factor is also a strange one to pin down. You're not really going to be changing your, you know, strategy game on game, and the cards and the deck largely plays itself, especially on your turn. However, like with most control decks, the fun is really knowing when to stop your opponent and being able to kind of analyse where your deck can counter theirs. So it's going to be a round 3 for the fun factor as well. As for the cost, I was actually quite surprised these guys weren't insanely budget. I was kind of expecting a really super budget deck, but when I came to cost it up, it was quite a bit more than that. I guess you're just trying to get cards from 2015 that haven't really had any sort of like reprint since then. So the price that I've estimated at is about $250. So, do you guys think Satellas are still flying high, or just an ancient archetype that should be left to drift off into deep space? Thanks for watching.